The Seeing in a Good Way project was designed for Native American students exploring new media for expressions. It's about finding their voices, coming to a place of words and communication in an artistic way. Dale Ann Sherman, curator for the Native American collection at the Clark Museum in Eureka, California, talks about how the project originated.
The idea for the project came about probably 20 years ago. I was in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, and I saw a small book, and it was black and white photography, and the students had written poetry to match the photography. And what struck me about it was that they had written about things that were dear to their hearts. They had written about their families, their history, their culture. And I always had it in the back of my mind because it was such an amazing, it made an amazing impact on me. I wasn't a writer. I didn't think I was a writer. And I was so amazed that students could be so eloquent. And so I kept it around in the back of my mind for a very long time. And after going to college and then becoming the curator here at the Clark Historical Museum and teaching at Humboldt State, I am always looking for ways to make the Clark Historical Museum have some life and to have the museum not be stagnant. And I was thinking how much our regalia needs to be documented. But then I also thought, wait a minute, this might be an opportunity to do the project where the students learn poetry, but then they also learn photography. And so the grant came through, and then I found 9 students here in the city of Eureka to be a part of the project. They're all Eureka City students. Because the project, we could have taken it to the reservation, but I was told that so many documentaries are done on the reservations that it would be better to see students that live in a small town like Eureka and see what they're seeing and how they not hang on to, but how they identify themselves as Native American and how they express that even though they're in a city environment.
Well, the first time, I didn't know what the age level was. And when I first came here, there were a whole bunch of kids who go to high school, and I was afraid that I wouldn't fit in. And then soon I made friends.
I enjoyed it. I mean, it was something that a few of my friends came together and we decided to do it. And it turned out a lot better than I had thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be the poetry the whole time, really boring, something that class would do. But actually it was a lot, everyone was laid back and we had fun, took pictures, be able to be the camera recorders ourselves. It was very interesting.
We had the students work a total of 14 hours. And at the end of 14 hours, they were to be photographers and poets. The tools they were given were a pencil, a journal, and a toss-away camera. And through this, we were hoping that they would express themselves and give us a chance to validate their words. Because many of the students, when they are that young, don't have anyone take their writing seriously. But that's when they can start thinking about being writers, that they're writers, only no one has told them they are. So that's how it came about, so that the students would realize all they needed was a pencil and a journal. And the photography was just a way for us to see what they're looking at. It was our opportunity to see the world through their eyes. And they did marvelous. They're photographers and they're poets already. The project was exciting. It was amazing to me that students that young would already know themselves so well I was looking for a way for the students to find their own identity and express it, and they can. I'm sure at their age I didn't know that much about myself. And they're completely immersed in their cultures and in their families, and they know themselves really well. It shows in their poetry. I'm really proud of them.
To help the students understand the process of writing poetry, Dale Ann enlisted the aid of her husband, Marlon Sherman, published poet and assistant professor of Native American Studies at Humboldt State University.
First of all, I read them some poems from other Indian people, established poets. And those poems are as much description, they're as much conversation as they are poetry. They're as much storytelling as they are poetry. These are the kinds of stories that the students may have heard already from their grandparents, their aunts and uncles, their elders. And then I also sang a couple of songs for them. I sang some Lakota songs, and then I explained to them how this also is poetry in a way, that Native people are natural poets in a lot of ways, creating songs, creating music. So I explained that whole process to them. I explained to them that just like I did here, that there are different types of poetry, free verse, rhyming, rhythmic, arrhythmic, but that mostly what poetry is the condensing of images to a specific place and time, possibly. Most of them are familiar with local Native ceremonies. Some of them are familiar with powwows. So in other words, they're all familiar with either the drum or the beat of the foot or the poles on the ground. And so they know those rhythms, and they know the structure of the songs. Most brush dance songs, jump dance songs are short, just a few words, and the students have realized that. So they do have that rhythm. They know how to distill from a lifetime. It's a part of their culture, actually. Being able to just to say it in a few words. I myself was empowered. I mean, they have so much energy. It's just great to be with them, you know. The very first day when we took them outside, we didn't actually take them outside. We sort of followed them outside, and they burst out the doors and ran and started taking their pictures, and they were just so full of life and energy. And we basically followed in their wake, you know, as they dragged us along like leaves after a car. And they were just taking pictures and having fun and seeing images. And that kind of energy went throughout the whole thing.
The students chose their favorite pictures and wrote poetry to complement the photographs.
Well, I had been around pine forests all my life, and decided to get something from out in the woods, nature, and the first thing that popped in my head was pine forests. I had a good picture of pine forests, and I decided to make a poem about it.
After I go home from a class, I just try to think of ideas of what should I write my poem about. And I realized that the brush dances are coming soon, so I thought of of the Klamath River, and I followed my cat in it. So on my poem, I said that she dreams about fishing in the Klamath River for salmon.
I think it's opened up a whole new world. I think for Stella especially, she's kind of an introvert, and she's kind of coming out more and more. And I think the pictures that she's taken and showed off, plus the other work that she's been doing, brings out her. I mean, it kind of overshadows her shyness. which I think is really, really good.
When the photographs had all been taken and the poems all written, Dale Ann had them professionally mounted to display in the museum. Next, a formal reception blessed by Cheryl Seidner, Wiyot tribal chairperson of the Table Bluff Reservation.
Creator, Father God, Daughteri Gakwith. Ha! I thank you for allowing me to be here with all these people. I thank you for the young men and women who have taken a camera, and through their eyes we are seeing what they see.
The students came in to a reception, and part of the process of having them write and do photography was having them realize that they could have a reception and be treated as photographers and poets in their own right. And so we had them come in, and we had a formal reception, and the students read their poetry, and it was a day of triumph. And in many ways, it was a day of ceremony because the community came out to validate them, and the community came out to celebrate with them. And it was marvelous because there were elders here and people of all ages, and the people who came were astounded at the work, as well they should have been. And the students did so well. They just got up and read their poetry, and they shared it so well. When we were doing the classes, the students had said they didn't want to read, and they would be uncomfortable reading. And yet, the day of the reception, they got up and they were so poised. They just did so well. I was proud of them.
I thought that, like, only all the kids who goes to the class and their parents are coming, but I realized that, like, not all of the kids came, but, like, a whole bunch of people just came. It was, like, really crowded. I didn't realize that a lot of people were interested in our poetry. And, after we read our poetry, they were, like, really happy to hear it.
And at the time, I marveled at their insight. I marveled at the willingness to say how they felt and how they related to, like, their cat or their place, or how they felt and how others might feel. One boy's especially poem was that very good.
All of the students had different ideas, different knowledge. I expected to be all nature. Some wrote about their cats. Some wrote about things that they saw on the streets. And it was very interesting to see their perspective and their pictures and how they thought a certain thing would work. I enjoyed the reception very much, to see all of the pictures blown up and the poetry. It was very nice.
I love having the exhibit up in Nelis Hall. Nelis Hall is always thought of as being a stagnant place, but this is the youth expressing themselves. This is the youth of the ancestors. Most of the things in this museum, one of their ancestors made. And now here they are with their contemporary work next to pieces that are ancient. And it's a celebration. I'm proud that they were able to express their identity and their thoughts in the way they did.
This display shows to not just to me, but to the world, at least to the local community and later on to the world, that Native people are alive, that the students view these things as alive. They're writing about ceremony, some of them. They're writing about the very things that are contained in this museum that we know still have a life and a spirit. And knowing that those lively, living students are connected to everything in this museum, it just gives me a really good feeling to know that the spirit is still moving around here, the spirit of the local earth and the rivers.
Teachers looking for curriculum might pick this up and be interested. So this becomes a prototype, if you will, for other people who are looking for projects to empower students. Because this is what this was. It was a project about empowering students, validating them, encouraging them, celebrating their lives. And it was a positive project. It came out very well. And we're hoping that as it travels to other schools, it will inspire other students to explore their own cultures and for their teachers to give them new tools for self-expression.
I would recommend it simply because of what this class has done to Stella. There's a lot of shy kids around, a lot of introverts, kids who don't like or doesn't feel, well, they don't feel comfortable being around other people. And this kind of opens them up, especially when their work is shown in this way, so that they feel proud inside themselves. And hopefully it will encourage not only those kids, well, my daughter, but my two daughters, well, actually I got four of them, but those kids who feel a low self-esteem. And those kids, when they get a pat on the back, they really excel in their artistic endeavors.
Oh, I highly recommend the process to everybody. And it's not a, this is not a really expensive process. What we've done here has been done elsewhere. And all it involves is just a few people, a few cameras, a little bit of time, a little bit of agreement among the schools to allow the students to come. I mean, it's just a lot of volunteer. And the return that you can get out of that is just phenomenal. You get the cooperation of the students, they get to know each other, they get to build their own small community within a larger community, and then to have the parents and the rest of the community see the results, the material results of their creative activities. And then to hear the parents speaking about the students and their processes and the things that they hadn't thought were possible, you know, and it all comes together here. And I highly recommend this process to everybody who can possibly pull it together.
We